Starries conjures up something sinister. This is your look at the new Defo-Real, The Conjuring Annabelle. Annabelle is an evil, possessed doll that first appeared in the Conjuring movies. She proved so popular that she got her own film series. Starries is offering Annabelle as part of their new Defo-Real collection. These figures are limited edition and made of high-end poly resin, while keeping the Defo-Real style of realistic likenesses with stylized chibi-like bodies. The Annabelle Defo-Real figure is based on her appearance in the first Annabelle movie. It features an authentically styled fabric dress along with her lifelike hair and comes with her rocking chair. Annabelle is approximately 6 inches tall and comes in an official closed art box. Now, before we get down to the review of the new Defo-Real Annabelle, I'd like to thank the folks over at Starries that provide the sample that we're having a look at in this review. If you would like to pick this one up and add it to your collection, Annabelle is slated to release in the first quarter 2021. So she should start popping up soon in various specialty comic book stores and, of course, online as well. That being said, we're going to go ahead and measure her off. I brought the rocking chair in. Normally, this would have been, of course, the time I would have introduced the accessories, would have brought the rocking chair in then. But there's technically two ways that you can display Annabelle for yourself. And I'm sort of doing one of them right now. You can see Annabelle sits on her own perfectly fine, or you can, of course, add her onto the rocking chair. And for that purpose, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take the measurements based on having her sitting and based on then having her sitting in her chair. First, starting with Annabelle, we're going to take it right to the very top of her head. Now, if this is just the way you'd like to display Annabelle for yourself, she's wandered off from her seating and ended up somewhere else. That's rather creepy. Taking it to the very top of her head, the figure in her sitting position sits at around 5 inches. Well, not around. She sits exactly 5 inches in height, which we can then switch to centimeters at being a 12.7 centimeter sitting Annabelle. Switching that then to inches once again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put her into her chair, move that over. This is my way. I'm sure I'm going to be displaying it for, and I'm sure many people are probably going to put her in a rocking chair, but just to kind of give you the idea both ways. And then I'm going to take the tape measure and put it right to the very top of her head again, stopping it right there. Now, from the bottom, of course, of the chair to the very top then of her head, you're looking at Annabelle sitting now at 6.5 or 6.5 inches in height. Switching that now again to centimeters, then you're looking at Annabelle's being 16.7. So she's a little over 16.5 centimeters sitting. She comes included with a couple of things that I wouldn't necessarily consider to be accessories. Like, for example, she comes with an instruction sheet. An instruction sheet implying it's actually only on one side that they've printed it. And it's pretty straightforward instructions telling you on the top the Annabelle 15 centimeter statue, which she was a little bit taller than that. You can see that they've got her configured in images of either having her in a sitting position or having her in a seating position in the chair. She also comes included with an optional vinyl tape. Tape is probably not the best way to describe it. It's actually more of a clear belt that attaches the doll to the back of the chair. And clever because they did that. After all, the material that they used for her is susceptible to, of course, breaking if she happens to fall out of her chair. The belt is sort of that guarantee to keep her in place. Especially if you are rocking the chair, Annabelle isn't going to go for a tumble. So moving that to the side, she does, like I said, come with that belt. And it's basically just clear vinyl. It's very pliable, and it attaches to itself via Velcro, as you can see right there. To attach it to the figure, I really want to refrain from calling this a figure, to attach this to the statue. I find it's actually easier to take her off of the chair first, because you actually have to take the belt. Let me go ahead and grab that right now. And you feed it underneath her arms. It's always this one arm on this side that seems to be the thing that snags it all the time, especially when you get it hooked around her thumb. When you are feeding, for example, behind her, because you do want to get that as close to her stomach as possible, and just, of course, fix her dress in the process. But you want to make sure that you don't get it caught on that thumb, pull it abruptly, and possibly cause damage to that thumb. Once that's fed all the way through, sort of line it up on both sides, then take the Annabelle, Decide where in the chair that you want to have those slotted in place. Again, it's just so much easier doing it now than having to worry about it later. And then once that's in place, just pull around the straps and attach the Velcro. And put it good and tight, so like I said, she isn't going to be going anywhere. Now again, I feel it's still going to be strong enough if you are going to be putting her in the chair. You can put her then on a shelf. You don't have to worry necessarily that Annabelle is going to fall out, going to tumble out of that chair and potentially break. Very simple and straightforward. I mean, really, when you think of it, all it is just literally clear vinyl that's attached by Velcro, both sides, the double side of Velcro. And again, from the front, you almost don't even see it. But the key really is, I find, getting it underneath her arms, so you don't even see it. It's kind of tucked in there. And I suppose you could kind of just even fix the dress around it to even hide it even further. Putting her down, the other accessory she comes included with, now this technically would be considered more an accessory. She comes with her little Miss Me note. This is just done in cardboard. It actually comes included in its own baggie as well when you get this out of the box. Now, the only downside, of course, this being paper and small in its size, it could be something that obviously is going to get lost. So you want to make sure that when you're taking this out, putting her in the chair, immediately putting that into her hand. And it sort of just rests in her palm right here. Just like that. I mean, you could have it in different ways if you want to, but this is going to be the way I'm going to display it. It looks good. But being that it's so small and it's only made of cardboard, if you happen to lose it, I suppose you could probably just easily just write yourself a new one. But it does look like her hand should be holding something. So definitely make sure that if you do get this out of the packaging, if you pick this one up for yourself, make sure you don't forget to grab the little Miss Me notes. So you actually have something that you can sit inside of her hand like this. Moving Annabelle off her seat for a second, I definitely want to show you guys the detail work that Star Ace incorporated into the chair that she, of course, is going to be sitting on. Now, while Annabelle is made of a heavier material, of course, the chair, contrast to that, is generally quite light. It's made of a very light plastic. But I will say, though, to the work and credit of Star Ace, they did actually brush on what looks very believable to be wood grain. The chair turned out pretty good, actually. I do actually have to commend them as well for finishing the bottom of the chair too. This would be considered one of those overlooked areas that most people aren't going to be really seeing anyways, because of course the doll is going to be sitting on top of it. But the idea that the chair could rock, hopefully not on its own, there is always the risk that the chair could tip up and you would then see an unfinished bottom. And that's probably one of the reasonings why they painted it completely. The chair looks good all the way around. Nice, decent wood grain incorporated into it. Now again, all of it is simply just brush stroking on some additional black, but doing it in such a way, though, it does look and it doesn't necessarily feel like wood, because like I said, it's a very light feeling chair, but it certainly does look like it could be made out of wood. So now checking out Annabelle. Now prior, of course, to receiving this sample copy from Star Ace, I checked online because I was anticipating this one's release, which is coming out again first quarter 2021. One thing that was consistent, I noticed, with all of the marketing promotional stills they did to advertise this one, is that the way that they had the light hitting her face, of course, they really want to evoke the mood, and the mood best suited for Annabelle would be a creepy mood. But the way that the light was hitting on all of those images seemed to give me the idea that this doll had a closed mouth. You'll see for yourself if you check online. All the images, because again, you've got that dark shadowing hitting her face, it looked almost like she had a closed mouth in every single image. So it threw me off slightly, more of a surprise than anything else, to get this one out of the box to discover she has visible teeth. Even going one step further, she has very visible pearly white teeth. I don't think it necessarily detracts away from the sculpting of the statue's head, because I think the head sculpt's good, but I think I probably would have maybe met somewhere in the middle between a closed mouth and visible teeth of what we're seeing right here, and I would have gone in and grimed those teeth up just a little bit, making them perhaps not as white as what we actually got here on the statue. It doesn't bother me necessarily that she has visible teeth. It makes sense that she has visible teeth. But again, I probably would have just darkened those up a little bit, because it's literally the first thing I find my eyes hone in on before looking at the rest of the head sculpt. And no way should that really be a detractor from the head, because the rest of the head sculpt is really good on this particular release. Now, sometimes I have to kind of look over the camera at what I'm reviewing, because as I'm looking through the camera right now, I find it doesn't give me the proper read of what her skin tone actually looks like. Through the camera, it actually comes across slightly more warmer tones. Although when I'm looking at it in person, she definitely has more of a purplish gray skin tone. Of course, when I eventually post this online, I realize watching the video that it gives me the accurate color scheme to what I'm actually seeing in hand. It's just slightly jarring sometimes when you look at it through the camera that it does give you slightly more warmer tones, especially in the case here of Annabelle. Speaking of warmer tones, I do like the warmer coloring of pink that they incorporate into her cheeks, familiar very accurately to the way that she appears in the movie. She does have the little markings and a little blood and stuff like that all across her face. I do really like the way that they've outlined the eyes in that very bold black. You can see they've done it all the way around each of the eyes, even the one that's cracked on this side, and given her very nice eyelashes. Going back to the idea of shadowing, I do like the fact that they did give her this darker shadowing around the socketed areas of her eyes. It's just enough that it makes the eyes look even, again, that mood that they're trying to evoke, that mood of creepiness. Definitely get a lot of creepiness, I feel, when you're looking at the face sculpt here of Annabelle. Now, of course, we can talk a little bit about her hair. Her hair is a rooted doll hair. You can see how it's been rooted along the top. There's a discoloration, obviously, where the face is separated from the rest of the head. But the hair is full enough, obviously. You're never probably going to be doing what I'm doing right now in this review to show you how it's been rooted in place. But like the hair does a really great job. It's very good, accurate color as well, given that my slightly more reddish chestnut color. You can see that she does have the pigtailed braids on both sides with very notable, very visible, very large ribbon bows on both sides of her hair. Really nice the way that they did the head sculpt here. As for the rest of her body, of course, she's got her lighter colored dress on. It has more of a whiter color, but it does have still little areas like the ruffles along the top, for example, that are slightly more yellowish in tint. She's got the one little bow there on the side of her belt and a nice little outlining of additional red that's been stitched along the top of the dress. Of course, has her shoes going on there as well. Now, the thing about this, obviously, is that lifting this up, this is all staction. In other words, that she has no posability to speak of whatsoever. Even though places like her hand, for example, almost read like you could be able to move them. Don't try moving them. They're just, that's the way they've been assembled and put in place. So you don't really want to rotate it. That's going to break it. But again, like all of this is just molded polyresin. And the end result, though, is again, even though you technically can't do much in the way of moving her around, the whole purpose of this particular Defo-Real Annabelle is the fact that you can just have her sitting around. Again, you can either have her sitting down on her own, all by herself, or you can bring in her comfy chair, and you can put her inside the chair as well. The nice touch on their part was, again, going back to the idea of using the belt. If you are somebody that's worried about her falling off the chair, I know I'm worried about her falling off her chair, by all means use this. It's clear enough that when you're looking at it straight on, you're really not going to see that she's seat belted to her rocking chair. And of course, then the finishing touches is then to go ahead and take her little message that says, "Miss me," and you can go ahead and put that into her hand. And you've actually got yourself a rocking Annabelle. I really like the design of this one quite a bit. Initially, again, it was the teeth that I found was throwing off the head sculpt. But again, the more I look at it, the more I think it works well, keeping in mind as well that this has studio lights shining, beating down on this the whole time. If you have this in just a regular living space or a collector's room, you're probably going to be having certain light hitting it, maybe light from the top, which of course would then cast natural shadows across her face and throwing off then that visible but bright smile that I was pointing out in this review. So here in Final Looks, we can compare the Defo-Real release of Annabelle from the folks over at Starrays with her front box artwork counterpart. It's not even so much artwork as it is an image of Annabelle, but the point is there to point out the fact that she does have visible teeth. The talking point of this review wasn't so much the fact that she did have visible teeth that bothered me. It was more so the fact that they decided to go with such a white color for her teeth. It throws off the rest, I feel, of her head sculpt, where it's the one thing I'm really honing in on when I'm looking at it. The teeth isn't so much the issue. If they had colored it maybe perhaps a gray or a beige color, I feel like then the teeth would have just been blended in with the rest of her face, and it wouldn't stand out as much. Now, again, take that with a grain of salt, because obviously looking at this figure or statue, I'm looking at it with studio lights all around me. I'm literally surrounded by them. Of course, that's going to be pointing out a lot more details starkly than what you probably would just be looking at it if you had this on a shelf with light shining down from the top. And then based on that, you're probably, yes, not going to be seeing the teeth as much as what you're seeing in this review. But the rest of the head sculpt is stunning. I like the coloring also that they decided to go with, which reads for me like a very purple-based gray. And then, of course, you've got those rubbed-on ruby reds in the cheeks that really does enhance that eeriness that is Annabelle. I really like this one quite a bit. Now, of course, this one is stactioned. All of really the Defo-Real that we've had a look at are all staction statues. But this one's different in the sense that this one can be in a seating position at all times, either sitting on her own or sitting on top of her rocking chair, which is going to be more the preferred look I think I'm going to go with instead. But you have the option of being displayed. You can display her really either way. Of course, when you are going to be displaying her, don't forget the Miss Me card. You may want to put that also in her hand, because if you leave it out of her hand, it kind of looks like her hand should be holding something. Now, obviously, it's a little bit smaller. It's made of just a little piece of cardboard. So if you do lose it, yeah, I guess you could probably go in there and just scratch out a Miss Me for yourself. Just put that back in her hand. But I do really like this one. This one turned out great. The teeth isn't a jarring thing because, again, at the end of the day, I don't display any of these collectibles under this sort of studio-like conditioning. Instead, I usually just display it in my collection room, which simply just has your regular lights. And because of that, natural shadow would be falling on her face, and those pearly whites won't be as much of a problem as maybe what I was pointing out over the course of this review. A big thank you to the folks over at Star Ace that provided the sample of the Defo-Real Annabelle that we had a look at in this review. Again, if you're interested in picking this one up for yourself, she's slated to release the first quarter of 2021, so she should be showing up soon. Also, if you're new to the channel and you're liking all the content you're seeing, consider the idea of hitting the subscribe button down below. Turn the bell notification on, and just know, Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when new videos will be popping up on this channel. You heard right, Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, as the question of the video for this particular video, what is your favorite Conjuring movie? Doesn't have to necessarily be Annabelle. Doesn't have to be any of the Annabelles, really. What's your favorite Conjuring movie? I think my favorite is Conjuring 2. But let me know down below in the comments section. Lots of stuff coming your way. Lots more Star Ace reviews also coming your way. So keep your peepers ever peeled. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.